The next one is a film that I feel was getting a much bigger release because they were pushing it as like this reunion between not just Zemeckis but his stars, having Tom Hanks and Robin Wright come back together for a Forrest Gump reunion in a movie where it's just one shot, really.
Yeah.
You watch the entire film from this corner of a house, which before that was when the dinosaurs were coming in and the pilgrims were coming in. Native Americans were there. I was really interested by that approach. I'm not always the biggest fan of Zemeckis's VFX. I want to say, let's bring
Yeah.
up Zemeckis over here to talk about it. I think one of the biggest ones that gets memed to this day is the Polar Express, but people love
Mhm.
that movie. I love Roger Rabbit. To me, you can't get any more polar opposite than the Polar Express than what this did with animation
Yeah.
and live action.
Which is all to say that, like, Zemeckis is a guy who literally for longer than you and I have been alive has been trying
Yep.
to push the boundaries of visual effects in cinema and where the point between, computer animation or even hand-drawn animation, and live action can kind of meet. And I think it's been interesting to see him sort of chart that course. There's, been much more successful versions of it, like you mentioned, Roger Rabbit. I think
Incredible.
The Walk from a few years ago with Joseph
Damn,
Gordon-Levitt,
bro.
pretty solid as well.
Don't forget
Flight,
Marwin. Zach. Zach, don't
that
forget.
would maybe go in the less successful bucket.
Flight 2. Flight's great, bro. Did you
Dude, the
see people
first
try?
45 minutes of Flight.
No, Flight's
Oh,
underrated. Yeah.
yeah.
I'd give it an extra half star right now just thinking about it, to be honest with you. But
Mhm.
people were bringing that up, I think, in October. There's that one scene. I don't know if you saw that trending. The one scene where he's like, "Did you drink October 5th?" He said, "I drank October 5th, October 6th, October 7th." They said, "Shout out for everyone celebrating." But I mean, the man is a master. There's no taking it away from that. I know we live in a generation where you make a bad movie and they throw you out with the bathwater. But no,
Yeah. Do
like
you
this
wanna
is huge. What's up?
reorganize that by release date so we can see what the recent run
Sure.
has been, though?
Let's see, from newest or first?
Newest.
Newest? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, look, is I like Allied. Allied's not bad.
And that's the rare one where he didn't go heavy with the VFX, right?
Yeah, and it's probably why he should have not done that for all these other ones. I mean, it is back to back to back. Marwin again was like this miniature stop motion thing. Witches was trying to do the remake in a way that I don't think was scary or even more effective. Pinocchio, not only do I not think it was good, terrible time releasing it against Guillermo del Toro's Netflix version of it. And now we got here. I don't know if you've got anything else to say about this like middle run right here, because Christmas Carol was also not something he was doing. Like
Yeah, I mean,
one for himself, one there, one for
yeah,
himself,
like
one there.
that's the thing, right? Like it's a lot of hits and misses. You get your Castaways and then you get your Beowulfs.
But it's someone trying, and I
Right,
think that's the
right.
biggest thing that I see with Zemeckis is that he's always swinging for the fences. And look, there is a lot that I didn't just like, I loved in here. I
Mhm.
do think the premise is interesting, and they do this specific thing where because you're focused on one corner, you can see a scene playing out in the present, and then they'll cut like a box. There's all these
Mhm.
frames that pop out where it's like you're seeing something from before, or you're seeing something that's going to
Yeah.
happen after, and it shows you the cycle of this place.
It's a really interesting technique. You see the window is in the trailer, and there's this
Yeah,
theme of windows, this motif of windows throughout. And so you will get these literal windows into different periods of time within a scene. So like they do it in a really compelling way where you'll see a scene from like the 1960s. I'm taking names
yeah.
out of or years of the year. A scene from like the 1960s where they were watching the Beatles on TV, and then you'll get a window where the Beatles continue and they'll jump forward to the 1970s and that Beatles song is like the score for the scene. So
Yeah.
there's clever ideas in
It's
there for
very
sure.
fascinating. Yeah, especially
Yeah.
when it's not even cutting to other, iterations, like, "Oh, someone gave birth here," right? When it was just dirt, it was just
Mhm.
grass, and then someone else does a home birth there. It's like, "Okay, those are interesting parallels," but they'll do things where it's like there's this one scene where what's his name? He's playing the grandpa. He's
Paul
Tom Hanks'
Bettany.
dad. Yeah, Paul Bettany goes to his little corner, right? Because it really is just one frame. He goes to his little corner where he keeps his alcohol, and they'll put a frame there, and it seems like for no reason. It's just a frame there to highlight where he's grabbing the alcohol, or is he showcasing yet again another flashback? That he does it so many times that by using the device you've been seeing to cut forwards or backwards, it's showcasing to you, yeah, this man has an issue. That's
Mhm.
not him picking it up today. That was him picking it up yesterday, tomorrow, like he's going to for a long time. and it adds to his character. I thought that was such a freaking fantastic, cool way to show this movie, to present the movie. Then you had the ugliest CGI on these people's faces, man. Absolutely terrible. They
Yeah.
de-age and they how do you we have not seen people it's always de-aging. They pro-aged or however you want to call it. They did it
Yeah,
to
it's
some characters too where they made them older through CGI.
right. It's very weird because the stars, as you mentioned, of this movie are Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, uh, two actors who we're obviously like very familiar with, and they're despite the fact that they are, I believe, both actors in their 60s, they don't spend a lot of time in this movie in their 60s.
No.
Robin Wright is 58, so I don't want to age her up, but like you see them mostly as like teenagers and young adults, and then you
Teen.
also see them kind of in their like senior citizen age. There's a little bit of like maybe they're in their 40s, but it feels strange. Like it almost feels like they should have cast Paul Bettany and Tom Hanks in opposite roles. They would be more age appropriate for what they're being
Yes.
asked to do. Um,
Honestly, bro.
but this de-aging thing, like obviously this is part of Zemeckis's like draw to projects like this, is to try these ambitious ideas. But we've had so many different projects take a crack at it, and they always just end up in this weird uncanny valley. You know, Scorsese is in my book, in yours as well, like easily one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. Hard very rarely does wrong. Those scenes in The Irishman are the worst parts about them. They stand out.
Yeah.
We had the young Harrison Ford in the most recent Indiana Jones movies, and it's just like it
Line them up.
it never works quite as well as when you just cast a younger actor. So I found myself getting pulled out of this movie a lot, like being asked to believe that Tom Hanks's 68-year-old but now plasticky looking face is supposed to be 17.
And it's weird because I see some people in the chat saying like the budget and that it's not the worst. It's not the worst. But that don't make it good. Like you could
Right.
still very much see it. I think a big one was when Alien Romulus came out. There were some people who wanted to fight for the face,
Right.
and now that it's out on VOD and you can't deny it, people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, I don't know what I was saying." No, we get it. You get to hide behind it when we don't have the full footage out. But after a while, you will see it age. Do you remember in Thor: Love and Thunder where they had the floating head? And fans
Right.
argued, no, that's what it's supposed to look like. Not only
And then
did it
they
look like crap once it came out, but they
yeah.
literally fixed it. So they leave you looking like a fool. Trust me, this is not going to age the best. And that's kind of what our pre-discussion was, that a lot of these swings that he takes, he's not like Cameron. He will do it before the tech is ready. Cameron
Right.
will wait till the tech is ready. And I think that that's a fascinating difference between the two of them, because many times you can argue that Zemeckis may get more heart in his movies from his actors. Maybe.
Mhm.
I'm not putting Jimmy down, but James will wait for that tech to be ready. And here there were a lot of elements where it's like you brought up really good examples with The Irishman and with what's the other one that you had just said?
Indiana
Because it's
Jones.
perfect. Yeah, because of their bodies. Not only do you have the face that maybe works for you, but I think you and I know Tom Hanks and her way too well to be like, this looks funky. Why am I hearing a 60-year-old Tom Hanks coming out of that body?
Right. Like his voice
Oh,
doesn't
you
sound
can hear
youthful.
it. Daddy. Like, no, come on. Come on, dude. And then he's jumping around, and that's where the next thing came in what you're talking about with the Irishman. If the
Right.
face got you, what couldn't was that specific scene you're describing where in the Irishman, De Niro kicks like an old man. They have this guy hopping around, and for a portion of it, I think he used body doubles. The
Mhm.
body of young Tom Hanks has to be somebody else, and then his face superimposed on them. Because there's moments where he's like jumping around and stuff, and I was like, "Oh, okay, you guys took the lessons from the Irishman," but now I can tell that that's not Tom Hanks' body, so it feels like those Iron Man scenes where the head's just floating on the top of some other figure. I think Helen was the only one where it worked a little bit better, and she's got a lot more emotional scenes as well, so they also play off well. But I think they should have just stuck to the moments, like with Paul Bettany, they use makeup. Uh,
Mhm.
the one who plays his mom from Yellowstone, dude, probably the most solid character. See if I could find her here. Kelly Riley. They use makeup to age her up. She's able to play the young
Mhm.
character all the way up.
Right.
You even have that other couple that they cut to, the lazy boy. I thought they were a really good addition to the movie.
Yeah.
So again, it's not enough for me to throw it away, but it's like, damn, I wish they did it a little bit better because it just looks soft. You could just see it.
Yeah, I will say I do have some qualms beyond just the visual look of the movie. By the way, this is the comic that is the inspiration for this film, which
Ooh,
also does a similar windowing thing that's pretty compelling. Um, this Richard Maguire piece called Here. Uh, but when it comes to the Zemeckis film, you know, while the windowing thing is interesting, I did feel like this weird, almost claustrophobia phobia by being locked into this one position for an almost 2-hour movie. I don't know if you felt that as well, especially like it's not like all the action takes place in front of you. There are people walking in and out of the frame. They literally walk kind of past the camera in this unsettling way.
yeah.
And I was lucky enough that I got a completely empty movie theater to watch this in. I got
Okay.
up and I walked around, man. I felt too confined in that one shot for that
Uh-huh.
long.
I almost felt it. I can see that. To me, it was like they'll have moments where they get rid of the house. So in getting rid of the house, it's like, oh my goodness, okay, finally, there's like
Yeah,
something
breathe.
else that was here. Yeah, let it breathe a little bit. And in that, it kind of reminded me of what's his name, who's splitting his horizons into 4 parts. Uh,
Costner.
yeah, Costner's whole thing with Horizon is like this is the sand settlement that the settlement that people used to live on. We came to settle here, and eventually, to me, he's gonna end the whole series with what does that settlement look like in the future. This movie kind of covered that. It went to the dinosaur era, to the ice age, up to even the present. And I guess to me, the only time that I really felt not necessarily claustrophobic, but like we're stuck in this kind of redundant story that you're trying to pull is when they went to the present. There's only one family story that I thought was so like Robert Zemeckis trying to write something he's never written, and
Yeah,
it was for the present family through and through. It's a
yeah,
black family where he decides to write this speech that one should have happened in the car because you're describing what to do in a car.
right,
And two, it was like, bro, they can't live. Every single character in here is a lazy boy creator,
right,
seeing if you should put everything into his passion. The father of Tom Hanks, Paul Bettany, had a passion that he's so mad
right.
when his son isn't going to follow his. Tom Hanks' character has a passion of, and then what's the black family, bro? That like you have a pattern for every single character, and then you just relegate them to that. I thought it was the
Exactly.
lamest thing, bro. I was like, this is not only a bland story that you have here, but it just feels like you forgot to cover this in 2020. So it's like now you're turning in your draft of sorry guys, I forgot to put this in one of my
It's
movies. No,
it's this attempt to widen the scope of the movie that ends up really narrowing your view of this type of character, right? And it's
through and through.
unfair to limit them to this really weird and
That's not their life
shoehorned
story.
interaction, right? Like it's kind of like if you want to make that part of your story, they got to be a bigger part of your story than that. That
Thank
can't be the only thing
you.
they're there for. Um,
Yeah, he may not
and
want to hear it, but the craziest part is someone in this house in the 60s would have been the perpetrator who would have done that.
right,
But y'all don't want
right.
to go that wild. Y'all just want to come in and do like, hey, check that in. I covered
That
the
would have
story
been a
right
much
there.
more interesting use of the windowing. But
Ooh.
that's the thing though is that this film, even when it is very clever in how it puts things, juxtaposes elements, a lot of it comes across pretty heavy-handed, and it's not just the like racial politics of driving as a black person in modern America. It's the way that they will foreshadow medical situations in the film. It's the way that they will, you know, it's not just enough for somebody to have a cough. They have to explain what the cough is related to, right? Like it's just a little, I think, because the movie does this thing that in theory I think is really interesting. No scene really lasts longer than a few lines of dialogue,
Which is good.
and it's an interesting idea. I don't know if it fully works because it makes, when you have to have a big moment, it feels too forced. It's almost like, you know, when you have go to like a museum and they show you like a little animation to like put you in time and place, and it's like some guys like, oh, I'm gonna bring my musket when I go off to fight in the Civil War. I will write you letters, Margaret. And it's just too uh articulately written to try and get across
Yeah.
information. The exposition happens far too forced to feel like it's a lived in,
Oh,
authentic, genuine moment.
I got one for you. There is a Halloween party where they're dressed up as Benjamin Franklin. So they decided to do a window frame where a guy just, hey, thank good. Like, first of all, the guy talking smack about BF was coming through the exact same spot, right? Because that's the gimmick. And at that exact moment, he
Perfect
was
that it
like,
lined
man,
up
ain't no
that
one
way.
gonna remember Benji. It's like, bro, what is this? It's yeah, those moments like that take you up so much because you're already giving a lot into the movie. Really, every important conversation happened in this living room. There was never
Right.
one in the kitchen. There was never one upstairs. It always happens here. And it's like you're already pushing that. So to give me little gimmicks like that was a little goofy. Yeah, through and through. I don't know. I still at the end of it was not looking forward to this movie at all. So I ended up a little bit more positive than I thought. Not so much to
Mhm.
give it a recommendation, but I think overall, and I'm curious to check out the comic that you had pointed out here as well to see kind of how it plays. But look, I'm logging it in with 3.5. The season's
Three and a
nice. Or,
half.
sorry, three. I said three.
Okay.
But I'm gonna give it a heart because of the editing, because of the framing. I want to see
Okay.
someone use that well.
Okay. I'm probably more of a 2-star on it, so I think we can give it an intercut 2.5.
2.5. Perfect.
Great. Robert Zemeckis,
Robert
man.
Zemeckis, Clint
I
Eastwood,
do want him
who
to keep
won the
making
week.
movies. It just needs like maybe a better script, maybe a better reason to do, and maybe just stop it with the de-aging. I don't know if anybody's ever gonna get that.
Could be, yeah. 2025. It's November. Both these men have a new movie coming out. Who are you going for?
Wait, we're talking Zemeckis or Eastwood?
Robert
Oh,
Zemeckis, Clint Eastwood.
I think if it's 2025, I might go Eastwood. You know,
Eastwood.
fresh off jury number 2, the world's his oyster. You know,
Nice.
there's a hot new filmmaker with a movie in theaters.
I see that. Good choice. I'm going Zemeckis because his movie would premiere on Thursday, and I know I got to wait for the Eastwood movie until Friday because that's how he rolls them out.